My wife brought her boss to our kids' soccer game like I wouldn't notice. So I smiled, waited, and found out why. I'm going to tell you this straight because it still makes my stomach tighten when I think about it. Me and Jenna had been married 7 years, 2 kids, a mortgage. The kind of life where you argue about whose turn it is to buy toilet paper, not whatever this turned into. We lived in a high-income suburb where every driveway has a shiny SUV, and every neighbor acts like they're auditioning to be the perfect family. You know the vibe. There's always someone power washing something. There's always a yard sign about a charity run. Jenna worked in an office downtown. I worked remote most days. Our kids were in elementary school, and Saturdays were basically kid sports, grocery runs, and trying not to lose your mind. This started with her work emergencies. At first, it was normal. Hey, my boss needs this by Monday. We have a client situation. Fine, people work late sometimes, but then it became a rhythm. Thursday night, work emergency. Sunday afternoon, work emergency. Random Tuesday dinner, work emergency. And the weird part wasn't even the hours, it was how she'd come home. Energized, not tired, not stressed, like she'd had coffee and a pep talk. Anyway, one Saturday my son had a soccer game at 10:30 a.m. Same field complex we always went to. Same little folding chairs. Same parents pretending they're not judging your snacks. Jenna said she couldn't make it because, surprise, work emergency. She kissed the kids, grabbed her laptop bag, and said, I'll be done by lunch. Promise. Okay. I'm standing on the sideline with a coffee and a banana for my daughter, watching my kid chase the ball like a tiny drunk man, and I hear someone behind me go, Hey, Jenna! I turned, and there she was, Jenna, walking up like she hadn't just said she was stuck at work. She had sunglasses on and this big casual smile, like she was doing a nice little surprise drop-in. And right next to her was a guy I'd seen one time at the company holiday party. Tall, clean haircut, nice jacket even though it wasn't cold. Her boss, Mark. Mark. He had his hands in his pockets, looking way too comfortable for someone who was supposedly part of a work emergency. Jenna goes, I got out early, and I just stared at her for half a second too long. Then she leaned in and said, kinda low, like it was a cute secret, Mark was nearby, so he just came with me. Nearby. On a Saturday morning, at a kid's soccer field in the suburbs. I said, oh yeah. Nearby where? She didn't even blink. He had a meeting. He offered to drive me. Drive her. To our kids' game. I did this little nod like, sure, okay. And Mark stuck his hand out like we were about to close a deal. Hey man, he said, good to finally see you again. I shook his hand. His grip was firm like he practiced it. I remember thinking his watch was expensive, not in a flashy way, in a this guy likes control way. Jenna sat down like everything was normal. Mark stood behind her chair for a bit, then pulled up next to her. Too close. Not like we're co-workers at a game, like we're comfortable. And I felt this heat behind my eyes, not tears, just that pressure like your brain is trying to keep you from doing something stupid. If you've ever had a moment where something felt off, but you couldn't prove it, you'll get why I handled it the way I did. Drop a comment and tell me what you would have said right there, because I swear I replayed that exact moment 100 times. And yeah, subscribe if you want more real, straight-up stories like this. I didn't blow up. I didn't cause a scene. I just sat there and watched. Because the thing about being a dad at a soccer game is you're surrounded by witnesses. people you see at PTA nights, people who know your kids' names. You don't want your kid's memory of soccer to be dad freaked out in front of everybody. So I played it normal. I cheered when my son did something good. I handed my daughter her juice pouch. I made small talk with the dad next to me. Meanwhile, Jenna and Mark were whispering like they were trying to be quiet, but not trying hard. At one point, Jenna laughed and touched his arm, quick, like a reflex. And Mark leaned down, said something, and Jenna's face did this little soft thing, like she was relieved to be with him. That's what hit me. Not anger, not even jealousy. It was this cold, specific realization. She was acting like his presence made her feel safe. I looked down at my hands and realized I was squeezing my coffee cup so hard the lid was bending. Then the game ended. Kids ran off for snacks, parents clapped, and Jenna stood up. "Okay," she said, overly cheerful. "We're going to head out. I promised Mark I'd help him prep for Monday." I said, "You're leaving with him?" She gave me a look like I was being dramatic. "He drove me." I nodded again. "Right." And I watched them walk to the parking lot together. Here's where the story could have gone into the usual stuff, like me following them, or me grabbing her phone, or whatever. I didn't do that, but I did notice something when they got to the lot. Jenna didn't head toward her car. Her car was parked in the same row as mine. I knew because I'd watched her park it that morning before she went to work. She walked past it, straight to Mark's car, and she got in the passenger seat like it was nothing, like she'd done it a lot. And the thing I saw in the parking lot after they drove off was what made me stop guessing and start knowing. When I got home later, her car was still in the driveway. That part didn't make sense with her story. If she went to work, why was her car here all morning? So I did the most boring, grown-up thing possible. I opened the little folder we kept in the kitchen drawer, the one with house papers and school forms and random receipts. We were that couple, organized, practical, adult. And I remembered something. 2 weeks earlier, I'd cleaned her car because she said it smelled weird. So I'd vacuumed it out, wiped it down, and tossed the trash into a grocery bag. There were crumpled receipts in there too. I'd shoved them into the folder without thinking. I went through that folder and found a valet slip. Not a big dramatic thing, just a small rectangle of paper from a downtown restaurant, a place that does valet only at night. Stamped with a date, Thursday, 9:12 p.m. On a night she told me she was stuck at the office until almost midnight. Okay, maybe she grabbed dinner out after work. Still possible. But then I found another valet slip. Same place, different night, Sunday, 7:48 p.m. The Sunday she told me she had a client emergency and ate vending machine pretzels. Then I found a third one. Same place, same handwriting marking the car color, white SUV. That was her car. But if it was her car, why was there a valet slip if her car was sitting in our driveway that Saturday morning? I felt my mouth go dry. I didn't need to look at her phone. I didn't need to invent a detective movie. I had timestamps, paper, a pattern. So I waited. Not in some dramatic, I'll get revenge way. I waited because I wanted to see what she would do next when she thought I didn't know. And it didn't take long. That Monday, Jenna said, "I'm going in early. Mark has a big presentation." I said, "What time?" "Like 7 o'clock. I nodded. "Okay." She left at 6:45. I watched her from the window like a creep, honestly. She backed out, waved at the kids, and drove off. Then 10 minutes later, I got an email notification on our shared household account. We had the shared email for bills and school stuff. Jenna sometimes forwarded work things there by accident because she was always juggling accounts. The subject line was boring, something like print for meeting. I clicked it. It was a calendar invite attachment, a PDF printout. Like she had printed her week schedule and accidentally sent it to the wrong address. And there, plain as day, was a recurring block. Not a meeting title like client review. It said Mark, off-site, every Thursday night, every other Sunday. Same times as those valet slips. Off-site could mean anything. But then I noticed the location field. It wasn't the office. It was the restaurant. The valet restaurant. Same one. Every time. I stared at that screen like it was going to start laughing at me. The moment I realized she wasn't even trying to hide it anymore, I knew the confrontation had to be clean, and I knew exactly how to do it. I didn't confront her that day. Not yet. I printed the PDF. I slid it into the same folder with the valet slips. Then I did something else. I called a lawyer. Not because I had some big plan to destroy her. I just needed to know what reality looked like if this went sideways. The lawyer was calm, like he'd heard it 1,000 times. He asked about the kids, the house, our accounts. He told me very casually to open a separate account in my name and start routing my paycheck there. Not to hide money, just to protect myself if things got messy fast. That night, Jenna came home upbeat again. She kissed my cheek, started talking about dinner, asked the kids about school like nothing, and I looked at her and thought, you can stand next to me and lie this smoothly? After the kids went to bed, she sat on the couch and said, "You're quiet lately." I shrugged. "Just tired." She nodded, like that was acceptable. Then she said, "Mark said the presentation went great." There it was again. Mark in our living room without being in our living room. I said, "Cool." She studied me for a second. "Are you mad I brought him to the game?" I kept my voice even. I wasn't mad. I just thought it was weird. "It wasn't weird," she said fast. Too fast. "He was just being nice." I nodded again. "Right." And she relaxed like she'd passed a test. That's when I decided I was going to confront her with calm, surgical questions. No yelling, no begging, just facts. Because if she was going to lie, I wanted to watch her do it with the evidence sitting right there. 2 nights later, she said she had a work emergency. Thursday night again. She got dressed nicer than normal for work. Not full-on date night, but nicer than office late night. I watched her put on perfume, like a spritz on the neck. That sound, the little spray, made my stomach flip. I said, "Before you go, can we talk for a second?" She froze. "About what?" I walked to the kitchen drawer, pulled out the folder, and set it on the table. She looked at it like it was just paperwork. I sat down. "What time did you say you'd be home?" She blinked. Late. Probably 11. I nodded. "Okay, where were you last Thursday at 9:12 p.m.? Her face tightened. "What?" "Last Thursday," I repeated. 9:12 p.m. "Where were you?" She laughed once like I was being ridiculous. "At work. Why?" I opened the folder and slid the valet slip toward her. She stared at it. I didn't accuse. I didn't add commentary. I just waited. She picked it up and her fingers trembled a little. Just a little. That could be from anywhere," she said. I nodded. "It's from the restaurant on 8th, the one with valet only at night." Her eyes flicked up to mine, then away. I said, "Okay, how about Sunday at 7:48? I slid the second slip, then the third. Then finally I placed the printed calendar invite on top. Mark, off-site, I read out loud. Every Thursday, every other Sunday, same restaurant. Her mouth opened, then closed. She didn't cry. She didn't confess right away. She did something else. She got angry. "Are you tracking me?" she snapped. I kept my voice calm. "No, I'm looking at paper that ended up in our house." "That is such a violation," she said, like I was the one who did something dirty. "You went through my stuff." I leaned back. "Jenna, you brought him to our kid's soccer game." "That was nothing," she shot back. "You're making it something." I didn't move. "Okay, then answer the question. Why does your schedule have recurring dinners with your boss at a restaurant at night?" She stared at the paper like it was going to change. Then she said, "It's work. We talk about work." I nodded. "Work. With perfume, with valet, with you leaving your car at home and getting rides." That last part made her flinch, because she knew I'd seen it. She stood up so fast her chair scraped. "You're acting crazy." I stayed seated. "I'm not acting anything. I'm asking questions, and you're not answering." She pointed at me. "You've been distant. You've been checked out. What did you expect?" I blinked. "So now it's my fault?" She crossed her arms, defensive. "I needed support. I needed—" I held up my hand. "Stop. Don't do that." And I watched her face change, because she realized the blame flip wasn't working. The next thing she said wasn't a confession, it was a threat. And that's when I knew this was already over. She looked at me and said, "If you're going to accuse me, maybe I should just take the kids and go to my sister's." There it was. Not guilt, not sadness, control. I stood up slowly. "You can go wherever you want, but you're not taking the kids in the middle of the night because you got caught in a lie." Her eyes widened. "Excuse me?" I walked to the counter and grabbed my keys. "I already talked to someone. I know what I'm doing." That was the first time her confidence cracked. "Who did you talk to?" she asked, suddenly smaller. I didn't answer that. I just said, "You can cancel your work emergency, or don't, but you're not walking out of this house like I'm the problem." She stared at me, breathing fast, like she was trying to decide which version of herself to use. Then she said, quieter, "It's complicated." I nodded. "No, it's not complicated. It's embarrassing and selfish, and you thought you could keep it separate." She whispered, "It didn't mean—" I cut her off. "Don't. I'm not doing the what it meant conversation. I'm doing logistics." She stood there shocked. "So what, you're leaving?" I said, "No. Tonight, you're leaving." And I didn't say it with anger. I said it like I was telling someone the trash goes out on Tuesdays. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. I pointed toward the hallway. "Pack a bag. Go to your sister's." She tried again. "You can't just kick me out." "I can," I said. "And I am." She opened her mouth to argue, then realized the kids were asleep and the walls were thin, and she didn't want to look like the bad guy out loud. So she did it. She went upstairs. I heard drawers open and shut. I heard her suitcase wheels bumping down the stairs. When she came back down, she stood by the door like she wanted me to stop her. I didn't. She said, "I can't believe you're doing this." I nodded. "I can't believe you brought him to our kid's soccer game." That landed, 'cause it was so simple. She looked down, then back up. "I'll call you tomorrow." I said, "Don't." She left. The house got quiet again, but it wasn't peaceful. It was like the air had been sucked out. I went into the kitchen, picked up the folder, and put it back in the drawer like it was just mail. Then I sat at the table for a long time, staring at nothing. The person who helped me the most afterward wasn't my buddy or my family. It was someone I didn't expect to be on my side at all. The next morning, I took the kids to school like normal, packed lunches, signed a permission slip, smiled at the teacher. I felt like I was walking around in someone else's life. On the way back, my phone rang. Unknown number, I answered. Hello, a man's voice. Hey, is this Jenna's husband? I froze. Yeah, who is this? He cleared his throat. This is Tom. I'm, I'm Mark's brother-in-law. I almost hung up because I thought it was some weird setup. Then he said, look, I don't know you, and I'm not trying to get involved. But my sister, Mark's wife, found out about Jenna. She's meeting with a lawyer today. Mark told her it was just a coworker thing, and she's spiraling. I saw your name on a school program last week when he was there. I figured, you should know you're not crazy. My throat went tight. I said, so he's married. Yeah, Tom said. 2 kids, same as you. Of course, he continued. My sister's not going to blast Jenna on social media or anything. She's just done. But I wanted to tell you because Mark has been spinning stories, making it sound like it's all mutual, like everyone's okay with it. I let out this bitter laugh. Nobody's okay with it, Tom sighed. I'm sorry, man. I really am. If you need, I don't know, dates, proof, anything for legal stuff, my sister has screenshots of calendar invites and receipts. Not the gross kind, just enough. She's collecting everything. I stared at the road, parked in my own driveway, hands shaking on the steering wheel. I said, thank you. He paused. Yeah, and just so you know, he's the type to blame everyone else. He's already telling people you're unstable, so keep it clean. That part made me cold, because Jenna had tried the same thing the night before, calling me crazy. I said, I will. We hung up and I sat there for a minute, breathing. Then I did the last thing I needed to do. I texted Jenna one sentence. I know Mark is married. His wife knows. Don't contact me unless it's about the kids. She replied instantly. What are you talking about? I didn't respond, because that's the thing. Once you stop playing the game, their moves don't work anymore. Later that day, she showed up at the house while the kids were at school. She looked different, like she hadn't slept. Like she'd been running through excuses in her head all night, and none of them sounded good in daylight. She said, we need to talk. I said, we can talk through lawyers. Her face twisted. You already got a lawyer? I didn't answer that either. She stepped closer. Mark's wife called me. She screamed at me. She said I ruined her life. I stared at her. You didn't ruin her life. Mark did. And you helped. Jenna's eyes filled, but I couldn't tell if it was sadness or embarrassment. She whispered, it wasn't supposed to get like this. I said, but it did. She tried one more time, softer. Can we just try to fix it? And I almost let myself imagine it. The apology, the reset, the fantasy of keeping my kids' world intact. Then I remembered the soccer game. How comfortable she looked walking to his car. How she smiled like I was a prop. I shook my head. No. She started crying then. For real. But it didn't change anything. I said, you can see the kids on a schedule. We'll do it clean. Don't make this uglier than it has to be. She wiped her face and looked at me like she hated me for not rescuing her from the consequences. Then she left again. And that was it. I didn't post about it. I didn't call her parents. I didn't blow up her job. I just protected my money, protected my kids, and kept my side quiet and solid. A few weeks later, I heard through school parent gossip that Mark resigned. That's the polite word they use when someone gets pushed out. Jenna told me he cut her off when his wife found out. Of course he did, and I'm not going to pretend I felt nothing about that. I felt this dark relief that she finally saw what I saw. But mostly I felt tired, because the worst part wasn't losing her. It was realizing she'd been okay humiliating me in public at my kid's soccer game because she thought I'd just swallow it. I didn't. And if you're listening to this and you're in that place where your gut is screaming, but you don't have your big reveal yet, pay attention to the boring stuff. Paper, patterns, times, little details that don't match. That's where the truth lives. And when you finally see it, do yourself a favor. Don't beg someone to respect you. Just make